Hey Darcy, it's time for another math lesson. And so the last worksheet you did was a worksheet introducing division, right? And so if you think about what you've done over the last couple of worksheets, right, you learned about finding the missing factor in a multiplication equation, okay? We turned that into showing that you can find that missing factor by doing division, right? And so we wrote our division problems or equations in a special way. A number on top, the line, sometimes called the fraction bar, and then the number below the fraction bar. And we would read that, the number on top, think of that fraction bar or the line as meaning divided by, and then you'd say the number on the bottom. And that's a fraction. And so this lesson is all about fractions, okay? First things first, though, let me tell you that warm-up practice, right? Warm-up practice 6, and you need to do section 2. And you can pause the recording and do that now, or you can wait until later to do that, whatever you would like. Okay, so for this lesson, let me see here. I want to be able to type out this problem, okay? Because we're going to look at a problem here that's going to ask us to divide a whole into parts, okay? So here's the problem, and you can read along with me as I type it. Lou and Joe are dividing a granola bar between them. Not a big fan of granola bars. Sometimes I like them. How much does each person get? Okay, so there's the question. Lou and Joe are dividing a granola bar between them. How much does each person get? Well, let's think about it. We have one whole granola bar. Why am I not writing here? Let's try this again. We have one whole granola bar. There we go. Right? And we want to divide that granola bar into a part for Lou and a part for Joe. Right? And assuming that they're all being nice to each other, right? The one granola bar is going to be divided so that Lou gets 1/2, that's a 1/2, and Joe gets 1/2, right? So how much does each person get? Each person gets 1/2 of the granola bar because it's equally divided between the two, okay? Think about that for a little bit. Now, that probably makes sense to you, right? You've probably even done something like that. Maybe not with a granola bar, but you've probably shared something and you had half and a friend, a sister, a brother had half, right? Because when you have one and you divide it equally into two parts, each part is half of the whole. Well, the story changes. Let me get my typing back up here, and let's add this to the story. Before Lou and Joe get to break their bar, Will joins them. Now, how much would each one get? Okay, so let's think about it. We started with 2, Lou and Joe, and it was going to be divided in half, right? Each would get half. Each would get one of the 2 equal parts that make the whole granola bar. But now Will shows up, and apparently, we're all friends with Will, and so, okay, Will can have some too. And so what's going to happen? How are we going to handle that one granola bar so that Lou, Joe, and Will can each have some of the granola bar? How much would each one get? Well, think about it. We're going to have to now divide that granola bar into 3 parts. I'm not going to write the number inside the circle because I didn't give myself enough space. But we're going to have to divide that granola bar into 3 parts because there's 3 people, and each person is going to get one of those 3 equal parts that make up the whole. Right? So what's the answer then? How much would each one get? Each one would get 1/3. Right? 1 whole granola bar divided between 3 people, or broken into 3 groups. Right? And so with these problems, we can just look at the words and we can think about what the words are telling us, and we could decide that, oh yeah, we need 1, 2, 3 equal parts, right? So that 1 bar has to be divided into 3 equal parts. We can also do our part whole circle set, right? Okay. Oh, but wait a minute. This just in. There's a little more to the story. Oh, wait, I'm not typing. Why am I not typing? There we go. Oh, look. Sophie just arrived. Whoops, arrived. There we go. Now, how much would each person get? So what just happened? Yeah, Sophie just arrived. But what does that mean about dividing up the 1 granola bar? What does that mean? And how much would each person get? Well, Lou needs to get her part of the granola bar. Joe needs to get his part. Will needs to get his part. And Sophie needs to get her part. How many parts do we need? Right? Well, we're going to have to divide the 1 granola bar into 4 parts, and each person is going to get 1 of those 4 equal parts, right? So again, I'm not going to write my numbers in my circles because I didn't make them large enough, but each of the part circles then would have 1/4, because that would show that each person gets 1 of the 4 equal parts that make up the whole granola bar. Okay? That's division right there. Okay? Listen, from here on out, whenever you think of division, if you're trying to remember, well, how does division work? Come back to the story of the granola bar. Okay? All your division will be similar to that. It'll be taking some whole amount and breaking it into equal parts. Okay? All right, so one of the things that you need to have with you are your fraction pieces. And with those fraction pieces, what you need to do is you need to take 1 fraction strip of each size, okay? Because you do have some pieces that are the same, right? And if you take 1 fraction strip of each size, you will see that you have 10 different size strips. Now, take those 10 strips, each one a different size, and see if you can build stairs, right? So start with the longest strip, and let's say that's the bottom of the stairs, and then place all the other strips and make like a staircase that would be going up. Okay? Now, as you do that, when you finish, you should have something that looks like this. There's a fraction stairs, right? So notice what we have here. The longest piece is at the bottom, and then each smaller piece we stacked up to make stairs, right? Now, I think you've made stairs on your abacus, but these stairs look a little bit different than the stairs on the abacus. If you have your abacus right there, you might make a staircase with the beads on your abacus. And you'll probably notice with your abacus, everything stays pretty even. In other words, the steps, each step is the same size, right? Because each step would be one bead smaller going up. But notice our stairs, our fraction stairs, right? This first step is real long, and then the second step is quite a bit shorter. Now the next step is a little bit shorter, and then shorter or smaller, right? And then smaller and smaller. And if you were really trying to walk up this, right? Step, 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 step. Oh, tippy toe, tippy toe, tippy toe. I don't even know if we could fit on that step right there, right? And okay. So the steps get smaller as we move up to the top of our fraction stairs, okay? And that makes them different than the stairs that we might make on our abacus, where every stair is the same, or every step is the same. All right, so that's one thing to notice about our fractions, okay? How our fractions compare to each other. And you'll notice that each of these stairs has a fraction number with it, right? And it's telling you how many parts the whole is divided into, and that this is one of those parts. And so if we were to read these fractions, it would be nice to know how to read them. And maybe you already know. Maybe you can read these fractions all the way up. You know, you probably know 1/2, right? We've talked about that often, 1/2, right? But do we know what this one is? Or this one, or this one? Do we know how to say those fractions? Well, one of the things that helps us, if you remember, you've learned before something called ordinal numbers. ORDINAL, ordinal numbers. And one of the things that helps me remember what that means is the word ordinal, right? It sounds like I'm starting to say the word order, right? So these are the numbers that tell us the order of things. And if you think about the order of things, the order that the runners in the race finished in, or the order of children standing in line waiting for their turn, you would say that the child at the front of the line would be the first, and then behind that would be the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. Okay, so knowing our ordinal numbers, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and you could keep going, right? But knowing our ordinal numbers will help us say our fractions, because we use the ordinal numbers to name our fractions. Well, almost all the ordinal numbers. The whole number 1, we just say 1. We don't say first. We just call that 1. And the first fraction, the largest size fraction here in our stairs, we call this 1/2 because it's half of the whole, 1/2. But then the ordinal numbers start. We say 1/3, 1/4. So notice that I'm naming the number on the top, and then I say the ordinal number for the bottom. So this isn't 1/5, this is 1/5, 1/6, 1/7, 1/8, 1/9, 1/10, right? So for the number on the bottom that tells us how many parts we divide the whole into, we use the ordinal number except here when we say 1/2. Okay? All right, so now we know our fraction names. We see the relationship between these fractions as we build our fraction stairs. Okay, so now let's put the whole fraction chart together. And so you have something like this. You have your whole and then your halves, your 1/3, and notice that there's 3 parts that put together make up the whole. So each one of these strips is one of 3 equal parts that make the whole. And same with 1/4, except there's 4 equal parts, and 1/5, and so on. All right, so we got our whole fraction chart. Put it together like this, and let's think back to our granola bar problem. Okay, remember it started with Lou and Joe, who just wanted to enjoy their granola bar, and they were going to split it, divide it between them. Okay, so which row on our fraction chart represents or shows Lou and Joe dividing the granola bar between them? Do you remember? Think about how much each person would get if it was just Lou and Joe dividing one whole granola bar. Yeah, they would each get half, so that second row with the halves shows the granola bar divided in 2, in halves. Lou, Joe, right? So here's the granola bar, the one whole. We got 2 people, Lou and Joe, that each want a part of it, so we divide the one whole into 2 parts, and each person gets one of 2 equal parts that make up the whole. Okay, well then remember, before Lou and Joe were able to break their bar and share it with each other, Will joined in, right? And so now you've got 3 people. So here's the whole granola bar. Which row shows dividing the granola bar into 3 pieces? Right, the 3rd row. The row with the thirds, we would say. The thirds, right? 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 3 equal parts that make up the whole. And this would represent Lou, Joe, and Will each getting 1/3 of the whole granola bar. Of course, remember the story. Apparently, before they even got broken into the 3 parts they needed for Lou, Joe, and Will, Sophie arrived. And so now what? Which row shows dividing the granola bar into 4 pieces? Right, so there's the whole granola bar, the one, the whole. Oh, the 4th row, right? 4 equal pieces, 4 equal parts that make up the whole. So this row would represent the last part of that story when there were 4 people, Lou, Joe, Will, and Sophie, and they each got one of 4 equal parts. Okay? All right, so having walked through that, then I would like you to do worksheet 85. Okay? So don't forget, if you haven't already done so, warm up practice 6, do section 2, and then after that, you want to complete worksheet 85. Okay? Enjoy!